Hello and welcome back to the Damon Rowan podcast. My name is Damon Rowan and today I'm going to be doing an episode on effective goal setting. So goal setting is one of the most reliable methods in planning out what you want to do and what you want to achieve and the best way of going about doing it. So goal setting, to make it effective, you want to be able to plan accordingly with your skill level and ability, so not to become overwhelmed and unable to complete your goals, while also not undershooting your ability and becoming too complacent in completing your goals that never really challenged you or didn't incite growth or development. So in this podcast episode, I'll be sharing the most effective methods I've learned in setting and achieving goals, and hopefully I can provide valuable insight into how you can use these two to help you too. So first off, starting out, you want to make sure you have the right expectations before going into your goal, because this is usually the decider on whether or not you'll actually be able to hit your goals and provide long-term motivation in actually carrying out those goals. So having the wrong expectations can actually lead to you losing focus when things aren't going to plan, and will ultimately lead to you giving up or failing the goal. Now, of course, it's natural to actually want to achieve goals the fastest way possible, but it's also important to ask yourself what's possible and lines up with reality. So to give an example of this, say you see an Instagram fitness account of a person who had an amazing transformation that occurred in a very short time, maybe losing 30 pounds in 2 weeks. Now, transformations like this are usually fairly unlikely to happen in the first place and this quickly. However, the fitness person may also be pushing a quote-unquote miracle workout or supplement that allows it to work in this time frame. So to give you an example of that, it might be a workout plan for 6-pack abs in 2 weeks. Now, this is basic advertising in that the seller is often willing to bend the rules for personal gain, so to make you buy their products, and it's important to recognise this and not align your expectations with their results. So the reason I say this is if you align your expectations with theirs when you buy their product and try it and you don't see the same results, you'll begin thinking there's something wrong with you as opposed to the product, causing you a loss of confidence, motivation in yourself, and you'll have wasted time, money and effort in the process. Now, on the other hand, if you stick to a plan that's rational and organised, you'll be much more likely to reach your goals because you'll be equipped to deal with the motivation lulls and setbacks that occur over the course of your process. Now, it's important to recognise that you will have setbacks in your process. That's just part of any process. It's important that you plan for these so that you don't blow your expectations out of proportion and have too much of an expectation that things are going to go very well, because if you do, it'll be very bad when a setback does happen, and then you'll likely give up or be completely drained of your motivation and drive because of it. Now, so to give an example of this, I'll use the fitness example again. So say you expect to lose 5 pounds in your first couple of weeks of training and dieting, but you only end up losing 1 pound. Here, you'll begin to think something's wrong with you, or give up or jump from one program to another without ever having committed to one solid plan. Now, having unrealistic expectations can actually be damaging to you because you'll build up too much hope, and when you fail to hit certain expectations, you'll be left feeling disappointed. So it's important to remember that any aspect of self-improvement isn't a race, and that big improvements require big changes, and these will take time. Like if you try to drastically change your life and lifestyle from one day to another, chances are you're going to burn out and completely go back to your old lifestyle, with long-term results never seeming truly achievable. So instead, what I would say to do is try to accept that change is going to take small steps at a time, and if you give it that time, you'll build up the confidence necessary to make larger and larger changes as you progress until you eventually reach your goal. So a big help in actually getting you to achieve those goals is going to be your perspective and mindset. So your mindset and beliefs are what have a great influence over your perspective and how you see the world, and in turn how you react to its challenges and obstacles. So essentially, how you think of yourself and your environment is going to have a big impact on how you make your decisions. And when it comes to pursuing goals, there's 2 ways of thinking that determine whether a person will succeed or quit. So these mindsets are going to have a big direct impact on a person's decisions, actions, and ultimately if they get results or not. So the first mindset is that of a person who gives up quickly and often. So think of the weight loss example I gave. This person is likely going to think that the world's against them and nothing ever works out. They started every training and diet program, bought all the fancy supplements, but they never got any results. These people expect quick results, and when they don't get them, they feel disappointed and move on to the next plan or supplement because they believe this is what is at fault and what is going to get them the results if they get it right. So over time, this person will convince themselves that nothing ever works and that they should give up entirely because, unfortunately, when they try new things and they fail, this mindset only becomes more and more reinforced again and again. Now, the second mindset is that someone who often succeeds and usually reaches their goals. So this person has learned that difficulties are a part of goals and life in general, and that obstacles will always have to be overcome in order to become successful. So these people generally see the world as full of opportunities and enjoy taking action and sometimes even risks. And although this involves a lot of effort, the rewards tend to be worth the struggles. So the important thing to note here is consistency. And even though progress may be slow at first, it compounds over time, and these people learn that the right actions produce the desired results, and that this mindset is reinforced over and over again as they continue to see those results. So as you can see, both mindsets are true in the sense that they produce the predicted results, and what you believe in is what you generally get more of. So focus on the long-term improvements and celebrate each step forward as a win. Like Confucius had a great quote in saying that the man who thinks he can and the man who thinks he can't are both usually right. So after assessing your perspective and trying to improve upon that, the next thing I want to move on to is moving over to a growth mindset. So the two mindsets I went through there are examples of growth and fixed mindsets. So research has shown that you're a lot more likely to reach your goals if you think and believe you can do it. This is because people that are convinced they can continue to grow and improve over time are usually the ones that actually will, and this is the growth mindset. On the other hand, people who are convinced that they can't achieve anything and that the world is against them are usually the ones who will see no change, and this is a fixed mindset. So research has also shown that fixed mindsets aren't a permanent way your brain is stuck working at, but rather just a thought process that you're forcibly conditioned to be like, and that you can be influenced to change when reinforced with positive thoughts. So the belief that you can accomplish and achieve your goals is massively important, and this strategy can be attached to anything related to self-improvement. Like everything of value in life comes with a price, and you usually have to sacrifice short-term pleasures at times in return for long-term satisfaction, and along the way you can practice believing in your goals and that it's possible to reach them. If and when you're committed to improvement, your habits will start to fall into place as a result of that to complement it. So the next thing I'm going to touch on is motivation and energy killers and how to treat them so you can create the best environment for your goals. So to achieve your goals and create a growth mindset that supports that, you'll want to create the best possible environment for yourself to thrive. This essentially splits up into two aspects, in that the first is to reduce the things that drain your energy and motivation, with the second being able to apply an effective strategy that enables you to be more productive and enjoy your work towards your goals. So to start off, I'm going to start by listing off some of the major factors that drain your energy and motivation and that are holding you back in pursuing your goals, and how you can take action in preventing them. So the first big drainer is overwhelm. So feeling overwhelmed is a big motivation killer and usually stems from one of two reasons. So the first is you haven't been able to plan out your goal and break it into small manageable chunks, so you feel overwhelmed by the sheer amount of work required to get that goal done. The second one is having a psychological attachment to feeling helpless. So attachments are kind of familiar feelings of negativity that we return to repeatedly. So helplessness is a common theme for a lot of people, in that getting overwhelmed in the face of things is usually an outlet for repressed helplessness. And on the other hand, self-motivation is the opposite of helplessness. So those who are used to feeling helpless need to be able to train themselves to tolerate the personal power and ability that they have. So believing you can do something is going to help a certain amount. However, to cure overwhelm, you need to start breaking your goals down into smaller, more manageable chunks that you can manage. So for an example of this, on this podcast episode, I said I'd write about 1 or 2 pages a day to have it completed in a week, say, instead of viewing it all as one huge chunk of work that needs to be done as soon as possible. And breaking bigger goals down into smaller manageable chunks is going to help you to think about things more clearly and assess matters better as a whole. So the next big drainer on your energy and motivation is going to be self-dictatorship. So obviously nobody likes to be bossed around. However, it's interesting the amount of people that allow themselves to do this to themselves without even recognizing it. So this usually comes in the form of telling yourself that you're lazy, that you must do work now, and that you have to do it. When you boss yourself around, something predictable occurs in that you're going to rebel against your own orders and then refuse to do anything. So giving orders to yourself is going to cause resentment and make you want to do the goals and tasks you set for yourself even less. This is why self-dictatorship is set up to fail essentially, and to cure this, my advice is to speak to yourself as you would a good friend who you want the best for. So what I mean by this is invite yourself to do things that will help you develop yourself and build a better life for yourself. Be pleasant, don't be demanding, and go over the things that will bring you improvements to your life. So after you've assessed self-dictatorship and make sure that you're not too hard on yourself, the next thing you want to make sure is that you're not being dictated by anyone else. So the next energy and motivation drainer is people-pleasing. Chronic people-pleasing is one of the largest drainers of energy and motivation. The reason I say this is when going about to set your goals, you have to have focus on what you really want. And if you keep accommodating other people's needs before your own, you're never going to get around to fully realizing what you want to get done. So this is where self-motivation turns into motivation based off the expectations of what other people want first. And this mindset won't help you in reaching your own goals, obviously. So instead, what I say is learn to be aware of your own individual needs and balance them with the needs of other people. So depending on your situation, you may initially have found it difficult to justify focusing on yourself as you're previously so accommodating to others. However, being aware of your own needs and desires is going to help you making better decisions and a happier person essentially for yourself. So getting to know who you are and what you actually want is going to help hugely in connecting you with other people who have similar aspirations and beliefs as you, and that's going to help you even further in propelling you towards your goals and creating a better surrounding environment for you to try towards that. So the next thing that can drain on your motivation is being too task focused. So you'll often have to do certain tasks that you don't enjoy doing and that you tend to avoid simply because they're not fun or interesting. So when you think of doing a task and how you dislike doing it, it's obviously not going to help in the motivation of getting it done. However, people who get unpleasant tasks done quickly are usually using their imagination differently. So rather than picturing yourself doing the task, picture yourself with the task already completed. So to give an example of that, instead of picturing yourself struggling through exercises at the gym, picture yourself afterwards having put in the work and feeling good. So try imagining the good feelings and results you're getting, as opposed to only thinking of the work and effort required. This will help you get more done and move towards what you really want, rather than obsessing with challenges and obstacles that are part of the package in any goal you achieve. And finally, the last aspect that puts a drain on your energy and motivation is fear-driven motivation. So this isn't so much of a drain on your energy and motivation so much as it is a dangerous type of motivator. So this type of motivation is usually what comes along at the last possible moment before you fail. So for example, imagine you've left studying for an exam until the last minute and now you have to cram as much as possible to get work done. Now, although this type of motivation can work in getting you to take action, and some people claim to work better off this type of motivation, saying stuff like diamonds are made under pressure and all that, the issue with this type of motivation is that it takes a large toll on your body and mind as you're procrastinating until external stressors force you to react. And this can kind of create a negative and anxious attitude when you're working towards your goals, which can turn into a behaviour as you allow it to build over time with repetition. So a way of helping with this is to focus on the internal motivation instead, and this places emphasis on self-respect and personal responsibilities. So when you respect yourself enough to act on your own decisions, you give up the aspect or belief that other things are controlling you and external stressors won't be a factor anymore. And this is going to help you realise that you're in charge and you don't need to depend on outside pressures to force you to make progress and take action. So after you put in the work in creating a better environment for yourself and reducing the amount of energy and motivation drainers affecting you, the next thing you want to look into is getting a better grip on your mindset and thoughts. So a common approach in most self-help instructions is to gain control of your thoughts so then you can go and get on to where you want to be. And while this can be a useful approach to achieving goals, it can be sometimes difficult to practice and may lead to inconsistency. Now, this is normal as we can't always be in control of our thoughts and actions, particularly on days when motivation and energy is low. So to improve this approach, try not to control your thoughts so much as you try to guide them, and by doing this, you're more likely to maintain consistency as you're trying to guide your mind and actions rather than forcing them. And this approach usually works easier for people and is better for long-term use and practice. So here I'm going to go through a step-by-step demonstration on how to guide your thoughts, and if you'd like to review these again in your own time, I'll leave them in the podcast notes. So step 1 is to listen and acknowledge. So most of your thoughts that cross your mind throughout the day are usually things that relate to you and how you live your life. So try to listen to your thoughts and acknowledge what they're trying to tell you and trying to make sense of them. So these can be simple things on a daily basis like, oh, I need to get up early for work tomorrow, or I have to go to the gym today. Or they can be more complex things like, oh, I need to start saving for my mortgage or a car, or I need to start planning my life out. And whatever these thoughts may be, try to entertain them and flesh them out for the reasons behind them, as they're likely subjects or issues that you're subconsciously aware of and may need to be given attention to. And the more you learn to appreciate your thought process and pay attention to it without judgment, the more you'll be in tune with making subconscious thoughts conscious and be able to guide them to reach your goals as you become more aware of taking advantage of opportunities while also minimizing the chance of repeating past mistakes and or defeating behaviors. Now step 2 is to make peace with your mind and thoughts. So what I mean by this is many people focus on being happy and positive all the time, and while this can be a good way of thinking, it can actually be practice that's damaging as you can get stuck in the belief that nothing can be achieved without a certain happy mindset to back that up. So this is set up to fail in a way that you'll likely not be able to be happy all the time, and you'll encounter negative thoughts and emotions from time to time. And when this occurs, instead of waiting for them to pass, try to continue working towards your goals through these times. And as you continue to do this, it'll become easier as your goals continue to progress, and you'll have exercised the mindset that you can actually work through difficulties and adversity without having to feel happy, and building up a conscious security that you can push through difficult barriers and still make progress. So this also helps in guiding your thoughts, because while you experience these negative thoughts and emotions, you don't necessarily have to agree with them. They can just be in the back of your mind while you proceed to developing yourself further in the work you carry out. So step 3 is realizing that your thoughts are just thoughts, and this ties into what psychologists call being infused with your thoughts. So to explain, this essentially means that thoughts and emotions are so part of us that we generally accept all of them as the way we are without actually questioning them. So for example, say if your thoughts say you're a failure and you quickly accept this becomes problematic, as thoughts are usually based on feelings we've had at one time or another, and they don't necessarily reflect reality. So thoughts are like mental habits, in that like habits can be healthy or unhealthy, and also like habits, thoughts and thought processes can be changed when given time and effort towards a positive and supportive mindset. So step 4 is observe your mind, and this step is about getting to know your mind. So some forms of this is quietness, meditation, or alone time, and this is all about spending time observing your mind and learning what your mind does and where it wanders. So mindfulness practices can actually help you become more centered, focused, and allows you to be more present in the moment, and this is useful when spending time at important tasks that help you progress, as you'll be able to approach them with a level head and patience to follow through with them. And step 5 is retraining your mind. So over long periods of time, our patterns of thinking can become subconscious. While this can be useful in some instances, it can actually sometimes be harmful to your progression if you're being misdirected based off of false perception. So practicing recentering yourself when your mind goes off focus is actually going to help you gain more control of this over time, and you'll eventually become better at carrying out action and thought processes as a result. And step 6 is to practice self-compassion. So although you may not be able to change your gut feelings and reactions that your body makes, you can change how you respond to them. So most people believe that vulnerable feelings are a sign of weakness and need to be hidden from others. However, this is wrong, in that being able to display your vulnerability is usually found as a source of strength and confidence. So when you judge your negative feelings, you lose the beneficial reasoning behind having those feelings, and you don't address the issues that they're trying to present. So both negative and positive feelings are important sources of information about how you react to certain events and things in your life, and they can tell you about what is important to you. So emotions should be seen as bodily signals that indicate how you take action. So rather than criticizing yourself, you can learn new ways of dealing with these feelings and thoughts. So for example, try to seek out things that help you enjoy life while reducing unnecessary things that do the opposite. So after getting better at guiding your thoughts so that it'll help in enabling you to achieve your goals, the next thing I'm going to discuss is the SMART goal setting method. So the SMART goal setting method is one of the most common and widely used methods when setting goals, and it states that goals should be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. And this 5-step process helps you to give your goals a better structure and increases the chances of you reaching them. So for this, I'll be using an example I used as a coach in helping setting a client's SMART goals to improve their diet and exercise routine. So starting with specific is just another word for detailed, and since most people have a general idea of what they want to achieve, through applying detail, they can become more clear on what they want. So when adding specificity to your goals, try to think of the 5 W's for more specific goals. That's what, why, who, when, and which. So what do you want to achieve? Why do you want to achieve this? Who is involved in achieving this goal? When do you want to achieve this goal by? And which strategy will help you achieve it? So for example, if you want to eat less junk food, your goal wouldn't be eating less junk food. Instead, you'd use the 5 W's to come up with a more specific goal, and this could be something like what? So eat less junk food. Why? Eating junk food is unhealthy and makes it more unlikely that I'll be able to eat healthy. So who is involved? My friend and I want to eat less junk food. When? By the end of the week. Which strategy? Eat fruit and vegetables instead. And this now gives you a much more specific goal than to just eat less junk food, as it gives you more tangible parameters to work off of, and the first step in setting SMART goals is already completed. And the next step is adding measurability to your goals. So this means knowing when exactly you've accomplished your goal and implementing some way of tracking your progress. So if you want to lose weight, the most straightforward way of measuring this would be to step on the scale and weigh yourself regularly and track your weight. However, weight loss isn't always a linear process and can sometimes be masked by changes in water retention or stomach contents, so a better approach might be to track your food intake instead. So this doesn't have to mean counting calories, it can be simpler than that. For example, say you usually eat 1 pack of chocolate bars each week, but now you have switched that up into only having 1 pack every other week. So you split your consumption in half. So essentially it doesn't really matter how you track your progress, so long as it's a reliable method in attaining results. So next, you want to get your goals to be attainable. So goals that are too easy to reach won't motivate you, and on the other hand, goals that are too difficult to reach seem impossible and will probably overwhelm you. So you have to find the right balance in between the two extremes. For example, coming up with an attainable diet goals is all about knowing yourself and your surroundings. So think about all possible obstacles that can stop you from reaching this goal. So for example, most experienced dieters are probably going to cheat if you put an all-you-can-eat buffet in front of them. And of course, this doesn't mean that you can't go to buffets anymore. It simply means you need to prepare for such situations and factor them into your diet as a whole, so to ensure you can continue to get results. So proper dieting is all about being flexible so you don't lose control when presented with a new situation. And next, after that, you want to make your goals realistic. So setting realistic goals is similar to setting attainable goals. So to not go over the same exercise again, try to break up your larger goals into smaller milestones, and these smaller goals will act as milestones to track your progress and will also help you understand what needs to be done every day so that you can eventually reach your goals for the long term. So for example, say you want to lose 20 pounds over the next year, you can break this down into smaller monthly and weekly goals, and this way you have a more realistic overview of your long-term goals, and also you'll know if this is something you can actually achieve then. And lastly, your goals need to be timely, so goals need a time frame in which to be completed, and this is nothing other than leaving a deadline for yourself. So if you don't leave a deadline or leave it too vague, you'll never know if you've reached your goals or not. So since you've already broken down your goals into smaller milestones in the last step, you should now have a rough idea of when you should reach your goal. So if you realise that you set your deadline too soon, it's better to adjust it at the beginning before you get started, rather than being somewhat towards completion and then adjusting it. So on a calendar or on your phone's calendar, set the milestones and deadlines up so that you have something to keep you motivated and then you can look forward to reaching. And that is the SMART goal setting formula, and it'll make your goal setting process much easier and more efficient, and this way it helps you stay focused and see results as soon as possible. So after you've gotten your perspective, mindset and goals worked out, the next thing is keeping on top of things so you can actually carry out and achieve your goals. So staying on top of your goals is difficult, even if you have them defined well, and in the beginning you'll obviously be more motivated. However, when you face your first major obstacle or setback, things can change. So you may become frustrated, overworked, and even question if it's all worth it. So try not to give these thoughts too much attention, as there's proven strategies to help you keep you motivated and reach your goals in the long term. So following these is going to help you become more committed to the process, and it'll help you continue to develop. So the key here is to put a plan in place. When you have a plan, you can maintain focus and anticipate obstacles and write down solutions for them in advance. So this way you won't get caught by surprise and can keep your motivation for the long term. So here's some strategies to help stay on top of your goals. So the first thing is to write your goals down. So failing to write your goals down can keep them in the abstract, and even if you think they're real by just thinking of them, it doesn't provide something as concrete or tangible as writing them down. And writing them down is actually known as an active goal setting. So whereas passive goal setting, or what most people do, is not as effective and can be harder to follow because you've not detailed them out with something to look at. So second is an action plan. So to reach any goal you need a plan, and planning is what helps you to move from point A to point B without getting distracted too much. So setting an effective plan doesn't have to be difficult. In fact, all you need to do is break down big goals into smaller milestones that you can achieve and that you can reach them in a weekly or monthly basis. So to use my example again, for me to complete this podcast on goal setting, I decided to write 1 or 2 pages every day, and I knew this was enough to finish it within a week or so, but not so much that I become overwhelmed and stressed from all the work. So make sure to create a long-term plan that includes all the important details, but realise that it can and probably should be changed and adjusted along the way. So if you see that your plan isn't working, all you have to do is slightly adjust it, and it shouldn't take much besides consistency. So the next step is to remove distractions. So once you have your goals and action plan written down, the next step is to ensure that you'll actually put in the work. So try to make sure that you remove all distractions from your work environment, and this can be things like finding a quiet place to work where you won't get interrupted by others, turning off your phone when you're on the computer, or telling your friends that you can't meet them at certain hours that will be dedicated to your work. Distractions are generally time thieves that will waste time without actually giving any real value in return. However, once you've done your work and hit your milestones, you can then allow yourself to enjoy yourself. And the next thing after that is to track your progress. So a crucial way to stick to your goals is to track and analyse your progress. So every quantifiable goal should be tracked and analysed regularly. Track the numbers that are important and evaluate them. Also, don't beat yourself up if you aren't reaching all of your goals, as this is a good sign in displaying that your goals aren't too easy to achieve. So use all of this information to assess how you're doing and how you should continue to go forward in the future. And the last strategy to help keeping on top of your goals is to develop habits instead of relying on motivation. So when you commit to long-term projects over time, research has shown that motivation can fade quickly. However, it's actually habits that help keep you on track. So staying motivated about something can be difficult to maintain over the long term, whereas keeping habits is very straightforward. So understanding the difference between motivation and habits is a game changer when it comes to reaching goals and will ensure you get results. And the last part I want to talk about in effective goal setting is tracking your progress. So this part focuses on helping you determine whether your goal setting process is effective in achieving results or not. So ensure that your goals are measurable by deciding what numbers are important into playing into your goals, and then start using those numbers to help make your goals more tangible. For example, say your goal is that you want to be fitter. So instead of saying that you want to be fitter, say you want to lose 5 pounds of fat and build 5 pounds of muscle before the end of the year. And this helps your goal to become more specific and measurable. So if you haven't already done so, make sure to account for which numbers are relevant to your goals. Next, you have to measure your progress. So this is simply assessing where you are now compared to where you were when you began. And of course, the process can be much more complex than this, but it's good to keep a simple definition in mind so you don't get bogged down in the complexities. And here are some of the best practices to follow when trying to evaluate your goals. So first thing is to write it down. So whether it's on paper or on your phone, make sure to write it down. And this makes your goal more tangible and allows you to see the change. Next thing is to measure consistently. So this is a process that should be done regularly, at least 1 to 2 times per month, as it allows you to determine trends more quickly and assess from there. The next thing is to ask questions about what you're seeing. So why are your numbers going up or down? Why is it causing this change? And what can you learn from this? And should anything be adjusted or changed in the result of that? And the last thing is to apply trial and error. So this is the last step and is perhaps the most important one. So if you're a beginner, you probably aren't sure on which strategy is best for approaching your goal. And this means you'll need to try a few different ones, and you'll likely fail on a few before finding the optimal strategy for you. So it's important to recognise that this is entirely normal and part of the whole process in achieving your goals. So don't be afraid of failing, and instead adopt a trial and error mindset when approaching your goals. And that, Thomas Edison once said, "I've not failed, I've just found 10,000 ways that don't work." And that essentially is goal setting. You have to keep trying until you reach your goal. And that essentially covers episode 3 of the podcast on effective goal setting. I know I covered a lot today and it can be difficult to apply it all straight off the bat, so I'm going to leave the notes in the podcast notes with all the examples and everything, and hopefully you can use some of the strategies mentioned in setting and achieving your own goals. Thanks again for listening, and again I'll say how blown away I am for all the support I'm receiving from this podcast, so thanks again for that. I appreciate it a lot. Have an awesome week, and I'll catch you next Wednesday for another episode.